Watch right now in the Front News Project. Unique footage of real combat in Koshina. Ukrainian paratroopers strike the enemy. The battle for Donbas. Destruction of the Russian officers' headquarters in Selydove. Report from Pokrovsk. The RS Army strikes again at peaceful Ukrainians. Fiery, hot, and blazing footage from the front line. Watch right now. The bloody war continues. The war that Vladimir Putin and his pack unleashed on Ukrainian soil. The heroic resistance of the Ukrainian armed forces and the entire Ukrainian people in the fight for their freedom continues. Greetings. This is Front News with you, Vladimir Timoshenko. In the next 30 minutes, you will find the truth about the war, which our journalists are uncovering from the hottest battle zones. So, are you ready? Then we begin. And we start right away with exclusive material. Right now, unique footage of a real battle in the Kursk region. Ukrainian paratroopers defeated the enemy in their own lair. Soon, you will see everything. Moreover, the Kremlin terrorists need to think about what is happening in the Bryansk region. Zet propaganda is in a frenzy. According to them, the Ukrainian armed forces shelled a local customs point where Russian military was stationed. It seems that Bryansk and Belgorod regions are mentally preparing for the entry of Ukrainian troops into these areas. We look at all the details and draw conclusions.
Exclusive footage of real combat. Ukrainian paratroopers showed how the offensive in the Kursk region took place. The assault troops note that as a result of a swift and unexpected maneuver for the enemy, the defense forces were able to occupy new positions and significantly improve their tactical position.
According to the data available in open sources, the Ukrainian defense forces have currently taken control of about 100 kilometers of territory in the Kursk region. This is since the last counteroffensive. So as we can see, the area of presence of the Ukrainian defense forces is expanding. We can say that a number of settlements have come under the control of the Ukrainian defense forces. The settlements of Oknovka have been completely cleared of the presence of Russian troops, and there is further advancement into Russian territory.
In Russia, of course, they deny everything and claim that everything is going according to plan. For example, the alcohol minister Masha Zakharova reacted to the words of Ukrainian President Zelensky about the possibility of exchanging Russian territories in the Kursk region for Ukrainian ones during the negotiations.
In the Kursk region, the neo-Nazis operating there are awaited by land without any exchange, approximately 1 meter by 2 and 1.5 meters deep. Zelensky makes such statements to hide the true scale of the disaster for the armed forces of Ukraine in this direction.
Only the scale of the disaster is actually in the Russian army.
Making baseless statements is in the spirit of this alcoholic, but during the last so-called teleconference of the Russian dictator with the citizens of the Russian Federation, when a woman from Kursk asked when Russian troops would expel the defense forces of Ukraine from the Kursk region, Putin could not answer. Moreover, he said, "I will not give you a specific date," because it is influenced by a number of factors. And one can understand the Russian dictator. The point is that all the previous deadlines set by the Russian side regarding the expulsion of the so-called neo-Nazis have completely failed.
And while the Russian army is suffering defeat in the Kursk region, tensions are rising in Bryansk. The Russians accuse the armed forces of Ukraine of attacking 2 customs checkpoints in the Bryansk region, where Russian military was stationed.
The armed forces struck an administrative building at the Trobotnoye checkpoint in the Sevsky district of the Bryansk region. It is located on the border with Ukraine. According to sources, the attack was carried out with 2 guided aerial bombs. On the same day, the armed forces of Ukraine struck another customs checkpoint, Pagar, in the Pagar district of the Bryansk region using a UAV.
Russian military correspondents have long been in panic and are clearly expecting a visit from the armed forces of Ukraine in the Bryansk and Belgorod regions. Yet they continue to kill their own citizens on Russian territory. On the evening of February 9th, the Russian army carried out an airstrike on the village of Kazachya Loknya in the Russian region. Prior to this, on February 1st, the occupiers struck a boarding school in the city of Sudzha.
It was not about an indiscriminate strike by the Russian aerospace forces, but about a war crime. That is to say, the deliberate nature of the strike on civilians, an object which led to the severe consequences of the deaths of citizens of the Russian Federation.
Meanwhile, North Korea continues to assist the Kremlin in the war. According to the South Korean Ministry of Defense, North Korea has sent about 200 units of long-range artillery to Russia and is likely to send more troops and weapons for Russian aggression against Ukraine.
This concerns the targeted nature of military technical cooperation. North Korea is transferring to the Russian Federation accordingly means of destruction. This refers to the Koksan self-propelled artillery unit, caliber 170 millimeters, with a firing range from 40 to 60 kilometers, and accordingly reconnaissance strike drones. This is a copy of the American Predator. In addition, the transfer from the North Korean side has been recorded means of destruction. We are talking about the Kavasan ballistic missiles.
In turn, Russia may send hundreds of its officers to North Korea, supposedly for rehabilitation, but in reality to prepare for the war in Ukraine. But the Kremlin is also attacking NATO countries. A Russian Su-24 military aircraft once again violated Polish airspace. The incident occurred during a nighttime attack on Ukraine.
Also during the week, Russian war criminals brutally attacked the capital of Ukraine and the Kiev region. During the night mass attack, the occupiers launched ballistic missiles, Shahids, and drone imitators at Ukraine. Specifically in Kiev, the Russians struck the Obolon district with Iskander ballistic missiles, where business centers and office spaces are located. A person was killed at the site of the terrorist strike. 4 more were injured. All the details are in the report from our colleagues at the television news service.
Yes, here the roof was lifted and torn off. Ola shows her home. Here, the roof is damaged and the doors and window are torn out.
These doors were torn out here. This lock is completely ripped off. His son has nailed it.
The Russians started striking Kiev around 5 in the morning. As usual, when people were sleeping, missiles were whistling in the sky over Kiev. Our air defense intercepted them.
The blast wave was so strong that people fell unconscious.
Ola's house withstood, but the offices across the street were heavily damaged. They effectively shielded the woman's apartment and the impact hit them. Later, it became known that there were 6 missiles. Ukrainian sky defenders shot them down. It was ballistic, but the consequences of the Russian terrorist attack were felt by residents of several districts of the capital. Cars and non-residential premises were destroyed and damaged there, with the Obolon district suffering the most. Among the victims, a 9-year-old girl died, a man who was not there, and a 40-year-old who worked as a security guard. Mikhail Ivanovich was also on duty at the time. He survived by a miracle and says he will celebrate his birthday twice.
God directed me, or someone, I don't know, maybe a guardian angel, that I went to the sink to wash up at that time. And then this explosion happened. Right before my eyes, the doors and window left the room. If I had been at my post, I probably would have been either cut to pieces, or I don't even know what would have happened.
Now, all over the area, the man finds these kinds of trophies.
Came flying in.
The office of the Frida TV channel, which daily reports to the world about the crimes of the occupiers, was also damaged. A huge crater formed in the office parking lot, but despite everything, they continued their broadcasting. Employees of offices and companies affected by Russian ballistics, along with utility workers, spent the entire day clearing debris and removing construction waste. And law enforcement documented yet another crime by the Russians.
Well, now let's analyze the operational situation on the much-suffering Pokrovsk front direction. The situation here is traditionally tense to the limit. Since the beginning of the day, the occupiers have already launched 22 attacks on the positions of our defenders in the areas of populated localities. Vodyanoe 2, Elizavetovka, Luch, Nadevka, Uspenovka, Andreevka, Alexandrovka, Dakhnaya, and Shevchenko. The defense forces, holding back the enemy's onslaught, repelled 17 enemy attacks. 5 clashes are still ongoing. Additionally, Ukrainian soldiers destroyed the headquarters of Russian officers in the temporarily occupied Selydove. In the Pokrovsk area, they destroyed several Russian guns that were firing towards our positions. But that's not all. Soon you will see the Shark drone, which the soldiers of the 25th Separate Airborne Brigade used to scout the area around Pokrovsk. By the way, there's another important detail in this story. The drone, which helps the paratroopers see the enemy's rear, is equipped for operation by a female technician. She is the third in the armed forces who has learned to operate a reconnaissance UAV. In civilian life, she is a geography teacher at a school in Dnipro. Watch how the young woman, along with her comrades, does everything possible to prevent the front from reaching Dnipropetrovsk region. In a report from near Pokrovsk by special correspondent of TSN Yulia Kirienko.
This is how our aviation destroyed Russian officers in the occupied Selydove.
Everything is destroyed, a huge crater. This is the command post where the Russians reported that the entire officer staff was killed.
This strike by our missile was recorded by a drone operated by Bailey. Now the pilot has a new mission to find as many enemy guns as possible, even before they start shelling our positions near Pokrovsk. At night, one of these was detected just seconds before it fired.
It turned out to be a Grad with a full load. It turned out to be a Grad with a full load, and now the strike will be quite spectacular.
Wow, how beautiful.
Yes, the drone flew in, sacrificing itself.
Ukrainian warriors surpassed the enemy in their ability to operate reconnaissance drones. And this is one of the reasons why the 25th Airborne has not yet allowed the Russians into Pokrovsk. In fact, it's not mandatory. In reality, it's not necessary to sit exclusively in trenches at the front. You can observe the enemy like this, in comfort, in a warm van, in a mobile station. Moreover, deep in its rear, to see movements, to search for targets in order to destroy them later. Billy gives the command to take off. Next to the vans is the equipped Shark aircraft. Here in the field where it takes off, it is operated by the paratrooper Ultra. She is the third woman in the SU working with such a drone. And in peaceful life, she is a geography teacher from Dnipro, Svetlana Alexandrovna.
So we arrive, attach our parachute.
Svetlana's students are still the main motivation and significant support for her. So she is in the brigade that covers the main city on the enemy's path to Dnipropetrovsk. She does everything possible to prevent the enemy from reaching her hometown. And how does she manage?
Do you see these nets? This is everything my students, my graduates have given me. I have a student, she is already a graduate. And today she wrote to me, Svetlana Alexandrovna, hello, how are you? They informed me that there are more nets. Such moments, as you understand, make it worth being here. Look, a girl sent juices, a box of juices. And it was written, these are the juices my classmates gave me for their birthdays. These are for you. You see, the child was treated, but she saved them for me. To the warriors from Alisa.
Ultra places the drone on the catapult and it flies into the sky over Pokrovsk. And almost immediately detects an enemy gun firing at our positions.
Shot from the enemy gun.
Whoa, did you record it? Is it working out?
Copy, recorded the enemy gunshot. Now we are transmitting the coordinates and the photo.
A few mouse clicks and the pilots send the coordinates of the enemy gun to the headquarters. Vasily hears them, which means it's about to get intense.
I love it when no one can work properly. Vasily, just a minute and everything will be very good. He's the one who makes things happen. Very bright, very bright. Vasily will always take down the enemy. Oh, there is a gap.
The enemy gun has fallen silent. That's already a good result, but with the Shark, we're losing video connection. We need to save the board, because the enemy realized they are being seen and turned on strong jamming. The pilots are trying to bring the drone to a safe zone. The crew's skill is proven. The Shark is returning to the ground, caught by Ultra. The Shark mission is completed for today. It will be replaced in the sky by night reconnaissance drones. But Ultra will not rest, as it collects video from the board. To continue an optional geography lesson for her students online, because she wants to show the class the beauty of Donbas, not only from paper maps in books, but also from a bird's eye view.
There was such a moment in class when we were studying minerals. The children asked, what are slag heaps? I tell the pilot, film the slag heaps from all places so I can show them in class later.
Next, we move to the Toretsk direction of the Russian World Front. and here they continue to destroy, kill, and maim. Currently, there have been 8 enemy attacks in the Toretsk direction. The aggressors were active in the areas of Toretsk and Shebinovka. Our defenders are giving a worthy response. 3 clashes are ongoing right now. But let's return to the situation in Pokrovsk. Drones against the civilian population. The occupiers are attacking the cars of Pokrovsk civilians with drones. For this, they are using new fiber optic UAVs. The thing is, they cannot be jammed by electronic warfare. The forced evacuation from the city continues. The Donbas police say that all the children have already been evacuated. But in Pokrovsk, there still remain 7,000 people. Special correspondent for TSN, Yulia Kirienko, will provide more details about this life on the brink of death.
FPV Zala Orlans is in Mavics. They emit a characteristic sound signal and warn us of danger.
Police officer Gennady launches a drone analyzer, turns on the electronic warfare, which should protect us from enemy drones. And we enter Pokrovsk to pick up the locals who agreed to evacuate. The city greets us with empty and artillery-damaged streets and wrecked cars on both sides of the road. Here is an overturned armored Ukropochta vehicle, which was attacked by a Russian drone. The people survived, but the vehicle remains overturned. It was a drone strike using fiber optics. A new development by the Russians, says the police officer. Even though we have all sorts of electronic protection means, in the car they are turned on. The only salvation from them is a hunting rifle, which Gennady keeps at hand.
Loaded with Baslevsky cartridges, with shot.
It is loaded with hunting cartridges, shot, regular shot, lead for hare, for duck.
And for enemy drones?
Yes, and for enemy drones as well.
The police are hitting the brakes. We have an unscheduled stop. The tire caught a shard. Our mission to evacuate civilians is at risk of failing. And we are at risk of becoming a target for an enemy drone. The destroyed house is probably the most recognizable place in Pokrovsk now. The shelling still hasn't stopped here. Do you hear how the explosions echo on the horizon? But there are still civilians remaining in the city. The drone analyzer on Gennady's wrist keeps beeping, alerting us that the sky above us is not clear. That's why the police officers and their partner are repairing the punctured tire even faster. We get back into the car and take a passerby from the street with us. The woman wants to leave Pokrovsk. The water has frozen. Well, how will you manage from here on? But on the way, the woman changed her mind. She asked to be dropped off at the market. There is a store operating here. There is still bread, some groceries, and quite a few locals who don't want to leave.
The children and grandchildren have left. There is no work. Where should we go? It's so cold.
Gennady writes his phone number at the entrance. From here, we take the woman away from the shelling. Her apartment is in a 5-story building with a view of the occupied Selydove. This is the most dangerous neighborhood, Pokrovsk.
Raisa Ivanovna, well, the most important thing is that you took your documents and phone.
The next stop is the private sector. But getting into the right yard is not immediately possible. The city's topography is constantly changing due to the shelling. And the road that was passable yesterday is now blocked by trees.
We are heading onto the central road, the city. We are heading onto the central road, the city. We are heading onto the central road of the city. That side is Donetsk, Selydove, and that one is towards Dnipro.
We finally reached the house we need. The sound of the horn once again interrupts the buzzing of the drone analyzer. In the sky we hear flights in the UAV, but we managed to pick up Victor and our armored vehicle. He agreed to leave, but he doesn't know where he will spend the night.
My daughter and son-in-law serve in the armed forces of Ukraine, but I quarreled with them because of my grandson. And my grandson is staying with my wife's grandmother in Vinnytsia. Yes, why would I go to her? I don't talk to her either.
At the entrance from Pokrovsk, another passenger unexpectedly joins us. Doggy Dog, are you coming with us?
And what feed it?
Don't move so it won't be bait. Okay, let's step back. Yes, alright, then let's take it. Come on. Let's earn our place, earn it. Everyone deserves rescue, both people and animals. We just picked up a huge alibi from the street. A good dog. Hello? Hello? Oh, what a good boy you are. So, in a tight spot, we head out to the neighboring village. Here, a volunteer bus is waiting to take civilians to the shelter.
Today we have a trip to Pavlograd, where other humanitarian mission staff will process documents for people and find out where to evacuate them next. Further...
But the volunteers can't take the dog, so Gennady takes the strap off a hunting rifle and it becomes a collar for the alibi. He leaves the dog in the evacuation bus. Where are we taking him now? Are we taking him with us, or are you taking him with you?
I'll take him with me.
The dog isn't the only thing the White Angels evacuated from Pokrovsk. In the trunk, there's a large bag, and inside it, a giant flag that used to fly over the city during holidays, surviving the shelling.
We drive in under explosions, we drive in under FPV drones in our armored vehicle. We entered the building where it was stored and took it out. Today we will hand it over to the military administration of Pokrovsk.
A 50-meter Ukrainian flag from Pokrovsk itself. The day before, the White Angels evacuated it, saving it from the city. Now it will be preserved to be unfurled during the victory in our city of Pokrovsk.
Well, now it's time to analyze the operational situation. On the Kupyansk and Lyman fronts, the bloody frenzy of the enemy's army continues, and here, the aggressors attacked our positions 5 times on the Kupyansk front near the settlements of Kondrashovka, Petropavlovka, Novoselka, Peshanoe, and Zagrizovo. 3 clashes are still ongoing. On the Lyman front, enemy units continue to attack in the areas of the settlements of Kopanki, Novomikhailivka, Novolubovka, Empolevka, and Kolotsi. Since the beginning of the day, Ukrainian soldiers have already repelled 4 attacks in this direction. Another clash is still ongoing. Few hear or see them, but they make the enemy tremble. Explosions at Russian airfields, oil depots, factories, destroyed enemy fuel convoys are also their work. This is about the 14th separate regiment of unmanned aerial systems of the drone systems forces. This unit operates along the entire front line and destroys the occupiers' equipment by the hundreds. They also conduct deep strike operations on Russian territory and destroy enemy strategic targets. More comprehensive and detailed information is available in the extensive report provided by our experienced field correspondent.
Entering into action.
Phys Ed teacher, this is TSN. Activate telemetry.
Each is well equipped for Anastasia. Not only success, but often the lives of their comrades.
We need to do everything as quickly as possible because the enemy also understands and also realizes that the enemy has understood incorrectly. Therefore, the faster we accomplish all this, the better our result will be, and more likely the target will be hit.
Check the sky, set up the program. Are they ready for launch without a pilot?
Yes. Yes, lower the right one a bit. Right, lower the right one. Yes.
As soon as the target is confirmed, the work begins.
Launch when ready. Launch when ready. Launch in 3, 2, 1.
We cannot show the launch of this kamikaze drone with the self-guidance system for security reasons, but we are happy to show the aftermath of its work. This damaged echelon was supposed to deliver 1,000 tons of fuel to the occupiers in the Zaporizhzhia direction, but the defense forces had other plans. The SBU blew up the tracks and stopped the train while operators from the 14th Regiment hit the front and rear with kamikaze drones. Then the stationary target was finished off with HIMARS, which were guided by operators from the GUA. It was so important.
It was such an important logistical route through which the enemy supplied ammunition, fuel, and everything needed for the enemy's front line. This railway branch was halted for at least a week.
But any successful destruction operation starts with intelligence, the fighters say, which is why they work together. The guys from intelligence
adjust us, guiding us closer to the target. Thus, we hit the target with quality illumination from the reconnaissance UAV.
These guys are responsible for intelligence in the 14th Regiment.
Our main task is to find enemy equipment, enemy personnel, and destroy it.
From the call sign, it's easy to guess where this fighter is from. Kavun, from Kherson. He escaped from occupation and joined the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. He chose drones because he says they are the most effective weapon right now.
In English, you could say it's a game changer. They essentially change the nature of war. Without putting anyone in danger, the personnel can achieve success on the battlefield.
Kavun's task is to coordinate the work of his unit. Well, it's purely simple. After that, it's a collective effort. Some of the fighters gather and launch reconnaissance wings, others make adjustments. Andy monitors the screens. He is the eyes of the unit.
I work as an operator, I am the eyes, even though my own are getting tired. And the most interesting part is when you don't just adjust but confirm the target hit. That's the most vivid.
They strike particularly important targets, both in the combat zone and on Russian territory. Among the confirmed hits credited to the 14th Regiment just in the last month, Smolensk Aviation Plant, Engels 2 Military Airfield, and the Crystal Air Base located nearby. And also dozens of Russian air defense systems, fuel trains, heavy equipment, and these are only the operations that can already be talked about, out loud. The guys say they still have plenty of explosive gifts for the enemy.
And now we move to the Novopavlovsk and Gulyaipol directions of the front. The enemy is also asserting itself here. In the Novopavlovsk direction, the invaders launched 11 attacks on the positions of Ukrainian troops near the settlements of Konstantinopol, Burlatskaya, and Rovnopal. 4 clashes are still ongoing. In the Gulyaipol direction, our defenders repelled one enemy attack in the Kamenskoye area. Airstrikes with unguided rockets hit the settlements of Novopol and Kamenskoye. Additionally, the Russians are trying to squeeze the remnants of the Kurakhove bridgehead from 3 sides and break through from the north. Towards the Zaporizhzhia-Donetsk highway near Constantinople. The epicenter of the fighting in this area is currently the village of Andreevka. And, even in such a difficult situation, Ukrainian defenders skillfully and precisely stop the enemy, neutralizing both the personnel of the occupiers and their military equipment. How exactly this happens, watch right now in the report from our colleagues at the television news service.
Kurakhove, yes, it's ahead, but far away.
But even here, enemy drones reach. The Russians on this section of the front have started using their new development, drones on fiber optics. It's impossible to defend against them even with electronic warfare. We are now with the fighters of the 46th Separate Airmobile Brigade heading to Kurakhove, a city where fierce battles were fought until recently. But our troops are forced to withdraw from there, and we are traveling in an armored vehicle equipped with electronic warfare. But even that is no guarantee that they will protect us from the Russian drones, which are very numerous here. From a bird's eye view, the commander monitors the approaches to their positions. After the occupiers took Kurakhove, they have become much more relaxed, fortifying there.
Kurakhove is right here for us. You see, the road goes, this is the direct road to Kurakhove. This is the outskirts of Dakhne, the first street and accordingly the second.
And the enemy is already there, right?
Yes, the enemy is trying to advance, but all our forces are preventing them.
And so far, they are not conducting active assaults because they have no one, say the paratroopers. The 46th has wiped out here. 6 Russian units in the battles for the city.
They have exhausted their forces and means resources, as strange as it may sound.
Well, now the positions of the paratroopers are surrounded on 3 sides by Russian positions. This is shown by Deep State. Our troops are not leaving the dominant positions. Heights on the approaches to Kurakhove. And they are confident that as soon as the Russians recover a bit after the battles for the city, they will want to take them under their control.
That is, if they reach this height, they can freely operate with aerial reconnaissance means, strike drones, of which they have many more. And then they will simply cut off our logistics, all approaches, evacuation and everything.
Therefore, the task now is not to let the Russians even stick their heads out of the trenches. They are eliminating Russian soldiers, even when they are just trying to reach their positions. Like right now, the drone camera spotted 2 of them. They are moving too freely on our land, says the commander, and gives the order to correct this.
You see them now, right? Therefore, we need a small article. No, they went in right here.
The strike drone pilots are already set to work. As soon as they notice movement, the drone immediately delivers a hellish gift there, or an FPV flies there. Here, the main thing is not only to cover your infantry so that the enemy doesn't get close, but also to prevent the occupiers from gathering, because then they start the assault.
They are now moving in small groups, 2 soldiers at a time. They simply have gathering points, and from there they move further. They were moving in pairs, one fell in the reeds, and that's where he lies. He started feeling unwell.
2 occupiers have been eliminated. This section of the front remained unchanged today. But the fighters of the 46th hope to hold the flanks, because if it weren't for them, Kurakhove would also be holding on. The Russians have long since changed tactics and are not attacking head-on, but are trying to flank our forces. That's why the enemy has become more active in the neighboring village of Zelenovka, and even achieved partial success because they aim to push our forces out of the Dakhnaya, Ulakli, and Constantinople areas, and gain control over the highway, Donetsk-Zaporizhzhia.
That's all for today, but very soon on the Front News program, new unique materials from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war obtained so that you know the truth. This was Vladimir Timoshenko with you. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.